stuff. And then I thought, I'm going to hit Jeff up and see if he wants to sit down and talk and do something as well with the church going. Because I know like the first time I was here, or the last time I was here, I guess, there's a ton of people outside.
Yeah.
People just crawling over each other wanting to work.
Yeah.
What's that like now? I mean, is there still?
Well, the volunteer work has slowed way down. And it's understandable. You know, people got to get back to their life, their jobs. So we knew that was coming. And honestly, the volunteer work lasted probably twice as long as I thought it would. So for us, we were very fortunate. Once the mud was out of the church, and we got completely washed out, it's time to start rebuilding. A lot of the unskilled labor kind of went away for a few weeks, but then all the skilled labor started coming in, volunteering. We had several different, groups come in. The one I can think of right now is Kingdom Builders. They built this stage that I'm sitting on. Okay. They put all this flooring down in here. So we've been very blessed with volunteers. People that's donated time, money, materials. If it wasn't for the volunteers, we would have never achieved what we've achieved this far.
Yeah, because I remember that one night we was talking, the guys were showing up with skid steers and heavy equipment that were getting turned away from other places that didn't need work, but it worked out for you guys where they were just driving by, right?
Yeah. So the one, I was actually in the parking lot working, and this kid pulled up right there by the guardrail, and like a big Dodge truck had a skid steer on a trailer. And he said, "Do you need help?" And I looked around and I said, "Of course I need help." He said, "Where you want me?" And I said, "Wherever you see mud that needs moved, move it." So he jumped out and he told me when he left, he said, "I got two guys coming behind me. I'll call them, tell them to come here." So
that's pretty cool.
Yeah, they actually come back, I think 3 or 4 days and worked here. They had 2 excavators and a skid steer. Another old buddy of mine, I know you remember Isaac Absalon.
Yeah.
He came and worked about a day and a half, maybe 2 days with his skid steer. There was just a ton of people that came. I can't name them all. Brother Brian Coffey, he brought a whole group down here with equipment and worked. And that's what I say. It's like, I know from my experience what that would have cost to clean that up.
Right.
If I would have had to hire somebody. And for these people just to come and donate their equipment and their time, they wouldn't even let me buy them diesel fuel. I mean, I offered to buy fuel, and they were just like, "No, buddy, we got it."
Yeah, that's thousands of dollars in
exactly.
Itself.
Yeah, that's what I told Boston. He was the kid that had the excavator. Boston Bennett, it's Danielle Bennett's son. Yeah. So, and I told him, I said, "Boston, I said, if you let me buy you $1,000 worth of fuel, you still lost money." Sure. And he wouldn't take a penny.
Wow. So that's a kid.
Yeah, I think he's 17. So he's a well-established kid. I tell you, like to see the work that he done and the level of experience he seemed to have. And then you look at him and he looks like a little kid. I'm just like, man. I seen Danielle down here one day, and I told her, I said, "Tell your husband," I said, "thank you," because he's done an excellent job raising that boy.
For sure. I guess we kind of skipped ahead a little bit, but so the day of, you drive a truck normally. Yeah. You're not driving a truck at all now since the flood. So the day of, were you out driving or were you here?
Yes.
Okay, so you weren't. Where were you at whenever the flood happened?
So I was on my way home from Iowa, and April had called me the day before and said it's rained nonstop for 2 days. She said the creeks are getting really high. And then I was on my way home from Iowa. I think I was about in Kentucky, and she called and she said the river's starting to break the bank. And, I really didn't think that much of it. Right. And then one of the other deacons called and he said, "Hey, water's in the parking lot." And I was like, "How deep?" And he said, "It's almost to the front of the church." So that's when I knew, hey, we're in trouble. Because, I mean, I've been here at this church for 23 years. I've never seen water in the parking lot. Yeah. So I knew we was in trouble then. But I got home it was probably about 5:30, 6 o'clock that evening, so I was able to come down here across the river. I stood on the bank over there for a few hours.
I guess by the time you got here, Riverview Bridge was still closed, right? This bridge right behind us.
Yes.
They hadn't opened it to traffic yet.
No.
I know one of the concerns we were standing up there watching after Chesto Bridge went, and then it wasn't, I don't know, it felt like it was just 30 minutes later. Somebody was like, hey, I-26 bridges, both of them gone.
Yeah.
So then I'm sitting there thinking, oh crap, like the only thing left to access this side of the county is Riverview Bridge. And I'm just sitting there thinking, I remember laying, like even after the flood was over, thinking to myself, I think it's going to fall or it's going to be so damaged that it can't be used, and I was worrying about, one, mom and dad's restaurant. It's cut off from the county. Everybody else on this side of the river, cut off from the county. You couldn't just zip through North Carolina like we normally would to get back to the other side of town. But so you're over there kind of helpless that first day, right? Like,
oh yeah. I stood over there for a long time. Like I say, I stood over probably 2.5, maybe 3 hours. I was there when they were flying the people off the hospital.
Okay.
Whatever time that went down was about.
So that would have been about the time we were up right after Chesto Bridge washed off, because we could see the helicopter coming in. And
So when I got home, of course I couldn't. I usually park up at Mom's house on Mill Creek. They wouldn't let me cross the bridge, so I parked at the house. And when I got home, I heard that Chesto Bridge had just collapsed. So I walked down here to kind of see. Well, by the time I got here, the fellowship hall was already gone.
Oh, really? Okay,
yeah.
So it
was already completely wiped off. There was nothing left of it. The van was gone, the church van. It was already gone by the time I got here.
Now, did you lost one van or two?
We lost one.
One. Okay.
Yeah. It's kind of a funny story, man. We've got that one old red van, and it's an older van. The clear coat's coming off of it. The carpet smells funny, And when we got the new Ford Transit van, the older man in the church told me to sell both the old vans. But I kept that one red one, and it was the worst of the two. And I told him, I was like, look, we got all these kids. We go on these hiking trips, muddy shoes. Like, you want me to do that in this brand new van? And they're like, okay, keep it.
Yeah.
So I kept that one old van, and Eric was able to get that van out of here. And when he came back to get the other one, the water had came up so fast, he couldn't get the other van out. So the running joke's been that Mother Nature didn't even want the red van.
It's so bad.
It's so bad.
It's like,
Mother
no, we're
Nature
good.
was like, nah, you can keep that one.
It still would make a good old school moto van, but
it would, yeah.
But so the van got replaced, right?
Yeah, that was another just blessing right there. There was a church, I can't remember the name of it right off. I think they were from up in Virginia, maybe. They donated the van. It's I call it the prison bus. It's a little short bus, but I mean, it's like 47,000 miles on it.
Wow.
It's a 4.8 LS motor, so it's a good van. They even had it lettered up, brought it down here, delivered it to us. It was just like, here's your van. I mean, just that's the one thing that's really kind of opened my eyes is I've always known that the building is not the church, the people are. But all I've ever seen is the people that sit here in front of me. And now I've seen how big the church really is.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's
it goes further than just Riverview.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the denominations. That's another thing. I've never been much on denominations anyway. But just to see all the different denominations just reach out to help and to give us what we need, and the brotherhood is there. And and the denominations is a man-made thing.
For sure.
And it's all it is, in my opinion, a denomination is nothing but a separation of people.
Yeah.
And I think we need to get rid of it.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, you even think, like, even beyond that, folks who had probably never even stepped foot in a church were more than willing, climbing over top of each other to come help,
Oh, definitely. Yeah. We had people here that I know, had never been to this church for sure. And, you can kind of tell the way people carry themselves sometimes, but they were the ones that were, here to work, and they were here to get, waist deep in mud, and throw them a shovel, and they just worked like crazy for just to be here and be helping, It really was amazing the amount of help we got, and from all aspects of life. It wasn't just Christian people. I tell a lot of people, 85% of the mud that was in this church was shoveled out by people I don't know and people that don't attend this church.
Yeah.
We did the minimal of it. I mean, we had a lot of our members here, a lot of them working.
Right.
But I know the amount of people that were here, the amount of mud that got shoveled out of this church. You know, it was amazing to see.
Yeah. Well, and I mean, on that, if it was just left up to you and the members of the church, we'd still be sitting in mud right now, right?
Yeah, you dang right. Yeah, we'd still be knee deep in it, I promise.
I guess for anybody watching this, you know, kind of excuse me, but I think I've got a little bit of ADHD, and Jeff probably does too. So we're going to jump around all over the place. But so the river's back down. You guys are able to come in and kind of assess, this is where we're at. This is what we've got to work with. What was the thought process? Was there ever a moment where you're like, we're not going to be able to have services back here again? Or was it like you came in, you seen there was something to work with?
I think for me, when I came in, I was surprised that the building, being that it was in such bad shape, I knew it was still fixable. But I knew in my mind that we had to get the mud out of the church, because the moisture of the mud, it's going to mold, it's going to create more problems. And I didn't know how I was going to do it, but I know you can eat an elephant, but you got to do it one bite at a time. You know what I mean?
Right.
So that was my mindset when I came here. And I guess back up to that, like my first day here, I got here at 5:30 in the morning on Monday morning. People were already messaging, calling, hey, we want to come help. What time y'all going to start? What are we doing? And we were having a little bit of trouble with getting onto the property. So I don't really want to go into that a whole lot. But I told my wife, I said, look, I'm going to go early. If by 8 o'clock I'm not in jail, I'll call you and you can tell people to start coming. So I showed up. As soon as daylight broke, there was trees across the driveway. You couldn't get in. So in my mind, Monday, I wanted to be able to get to where I could pull my truck into the parking lot and be able to access the front door of the church.
Yeah.
So I got my chainsaw out. I start sawing. Within 15 or 20 minutes, I look up and there's like 7 other guys with chainsaws helping me. They didn't come up and introduce themselves, ask if I needed help. They just seen me and started helping. I don't know these guys. I don't know them. I couldn't tell you where they were from. I've never seen them before. It's a small town, so I'm thinking they probably weren't from around here. You know, and so we got to work on that. By 10 o'clock, there was, I think, 7 pieces of equipment on the grounds working, skid steers, excavators, lots of people pushing mud out of the parking lot. And then a friend of mine that works for Preston Construction called, and he said, what do you need? I said, I need a roll-off dumpster. He said, I'll have one there in 45 minutes. So Preston Construction showed up, put us a dumpster right outside the door. Like I say, 40 to 50 people here all day. When I went home on Monday night, the parking lot was cleaned up, all the trees were cleaned up, and you know, we had a burn pile going. We had all the pews were out of the church, all the mud was out of the sanctuary, the carpet was out, and in the dumpster outside when I went home on Monday.
So we're talking about Monday. So basically 3 days after the flood.
Yeah.
Which, and if, I guess it's one of those things, maybe I can find some photos. Have you got any video of like before y'all started working?
I've got some photos of the first day we walked in.
That's one of those things, like people have no clue. That's something I've tried to tell people, like until you've gotten down here in it, you have no clue how bad it was, or how bad it still is for that matter. But yeah, so that's mind-boggling to me. Like I knew, because I was by here quite a bit, and I've seen, you know, like you said, 40, 50 people just running around like chickens with their heads cut off.
Yeah, it's crazy.
But the fact that you guys got that much done in 3 days is pretty nuts, really.
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, that was day one of working. You know what I mean? That was, and I think that's a lot of people were told that they couldn't go on their property and couldn't access their own homes. And I'm not sure where that got misguided. Yeah. But it was misguided information. It was not
for sure.
So I think that was a lot of problems with some of the people's getting into their homes and cleaning it out, because we got a little bit of hate from it. You know, some people were like, why are they over there? And I was like, because I didn't ask permission.
Right. Ask forgiveness, not permission. That's always, it's kind of been mine and your motto in life. But, to an extent, and a lot of things that we've done that probably shouldn't have done over the years. But anyways, so insurance wise, what was the situation there? Because that's a big story with a lot of folks.
So as far as insurance was, we had insurance on our van, and we called, first thing Monday morning. I think my wife sent an email, and they called me back on Monday and was like, hey, your van's covered. They said, you know where it is? And I was like, I ain't got a clue. But it was actually around the pillar on the bridge that fell on the interstate. It was down there.
Okay, so is that the
white van that they
I've
peeled off?
seen
Yeah,
video
that was
of that.
ours.
Okay.
Yeah, it looked like a crushed up Pepsi can,
Yep.
but yeah, that was it. So anyway, they paid us for the van, and didn't take 2 weeks or so. We had a check for the van. As far as the church was, though, we didn't have flood insurance, and being this close to the river, I don't even know if they'd sold us flood insurance.
Probably
We've
not.
never had it. I've been told that flood insurance is close to the river would be 20 plus thousand a year to carry.
Yep.
So we didn't have it. So we got $0 from insurance to put the church back together. So.
Yeah, and that's what was funny is the other day I was looking, because Mama's house, I was kind of looking, you get in the comments, you get folks that are just like, should have known better than build on the river. Yeah, probably, I guess. I don't know. But then when you go, or shouldn't build in a floodplain. So I went on to FEMA's website, pulled up the floodplain maps and got to looking, and it's really, what's crazy, I think I'd have to go back and look at Riverview's, but I know her house specifically, it was either 0.2% chance of annual flooding or 0.02% chance, like nearly nothing around her house.
Right.
And I think that's what a lot of folks don't understand too, is like, one, like, why would you buy flood insurance? I mean, we're up higher, quite a bit higher than the river,
Yeah.
and it's not something that, I guess 77 was the last time it even came close to this. So, I could see why folks wouldn't have flood insurance, even if they could buy it. But like you said, 20, 30,000 a year, I mean.
Right, yeah, if you've been paying that since 1977, you could have built 5 churches.
Imagine a church you could build with that.
Put 20 grand a year in a CD or something,
Right.
just keep it there.
So kind of going from that, since insurance, insurance can only do so much. There's no flood insurance, so that puts a ton of the cost back on the church, back on the individuals who own homes without flood insurance.
Yeah.
So, not to get, I don't like to get political on here. Everybody's got their own opinions, but FEMA has been a hot topic for everybody.
Yeah.
Were they able to help you guys out any, or?
So with FEMA, I'm kind of a neutral position with FEMA also. I was really worried when they came with the structural engineer. Nobody had stopped us from working, but he was the guy that could have. So I met him in the parking lot, talked to him. They were super helpful. And the guy told me, he's like, I'm not here to shut you down. He said, I just want to make sure your building's safe. And he said, it probably is, but let's go look. So we walked through, looked, and he told me, he said, I'm not going to say I don't know why, but I'll say it doesn't make sense that your building's still standing. He said, you don't even have as much as a shift and a crack in a wall, nothing.
Wow.
And I mean, the building, it took a beating, but it didn't move.
That's what's crazy about it. Because, I mean, this building's, I know the 77 flood wasn't, I don't know. I wasn't here.
Right.
Wasn't born then. But from what I've been told, it wasn't quite as bad as what this was. And
Right.
the fact that this church it's right next to the bridge, survived 2 floods is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Like whenever you see the video that was going around on Facebook of the cabin up here, crashes into the side of the church, then gets sucked under the bridge.
Right.
And I'm just like, what? It's nuts. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off about FEMA, though.
No, we were very fortunate as far as that goes. But with FEMA, so we applied for help with FEMA early and were denied immediately. But they replied back and said they're only helping individuals, not organizations.
Gotcha. Okay.
And at first, I was like, stupid FEMA. But but like you can think about it, you're like, well, okay, they're helping people get back in homes.
Yeah.
And that's another thing is we're very blessed here because no church members lost a home and nobody lost a loved one. Like the church is fine. The building took a hit, but our church is good. But as far as FEMA goes, so that was that. And I guess probably 6 weeks went by, maybe more. And then one day this guy pulls in the parking lot from FEMA that is for helping organizations. And we talked with them for several hours. There was 2 of them, super good dudes. Again, everybody that I dealt with FEMA was very helpful and it was pleasant to work with. Have we received anything from them? No, but they're working on it, and we may in the future. I hope we do, so we can put our fellowship hall back in our parking lot. But anyway, they bunch of paperwork. My wife's been working on that, filled out a bunch of stuff. We had to apply for a loan, interest-free loan through FEMA. He said, but if you get denied, he said, you want to get denied. He said, that speeds up your process of, like grant money. So we applied for the loan, got denied within a couple of days of that. And then I don't know really where they're at now. I know my wife's been working with them a lot in the last 2 weeks to the paperwork and trying to get things set up. So I don't know if we're getting money from FEMA, but we're trying, and they're working with us, so hopefully.
Speaking of your wife, April, you've mentioned her a couple times, but I would be willing to bet she's been a godsend during this, just because I know how smart she is and how she don't give up easy.
No, she don't. She's gotten us actually, I think, 4 different grants, and then we had a bake sale, and there was a local organization matched up to $2,500.
Wow.
And it was one of the things where we were going to have a bake sale. And, so I told my wife, I was like, look, have the bake sale. If you make 1,000, I'll buy a pack of cookies for 1,500, and then we'll get the 2,500 from them. Like right. We'll make this.
We'll figure it out. Yeah,
we're going to get that $2,500 one way or another. So we had a bake sale out here in the parking lot on a Saturday, and I don't know the exact number, but we raised over $7,000.
Wow!
Selling cookies and little cakes, and that was from our local community. I mean, we advertised it, Facebook, whatever, all the social media platforms. So we had a good turnout, and there was people just, coming in droves. But I mean, people were buying, $100 packs of chocolate chip cookies all day long, and so it's been amazing to see how much the community has put into our church, and local businesses that's put into our church. Pizza Plus, they did a fundraiser. I think it's still going on. I think they did it for a month. So
plugging that one.
Yeah.
Shameless plug.
Yeah. So they did that for us, and we've just, the outreach from people's been unreal.
I know the other day when we were talking on the phone, you told me that you was talking about material costs and how much has been donated. Tell folks a little bit about that, like how much, I can't remember the numbers you told me, but there was a number that you've spent versus what you would have spent. Yeah,
so we probably, and I'm just ballparking all this, I should be well over $100,000 in materials right now, not counting labor. And we have spent less than 50. And then when you factor in, and here's the thing, the materials is the cheap. The labor is right. What really costs you. So then you look at how much labor I've been donated, which is...
Well, let's rephrase that. Cheap in comparison. The materials are cheap in comparison.
Materials are cheap in comparison to the labor. For skilled labor, skilled carpenters are not cheap. You're going to pay anywhere from $35 to $55 an hour for a skilled carpenter. So the cost into that, you're looking at, one carpenter will cost you $2,000 a week. We've had some phenomenal carpenters in here that volunteered their time. And I'll say this about that. When it comes to the volunteers, whether it's materials, time, money, I appreciate all of it 100%. But there's something about time that really kind of gets me, is because if I give you all the money in my wallet right now, you still won't have much. But if I give you all of it, I can go back to work next week and I can make more money.
Right.
If I give you my day today, I can't replace that.
Sure.
Your time cannot be replaced. Yep. We all only have so much time on this planet. And so all the people that came and donated, even early, the unskilled volunteers that was down here shoveling mud, I appreciate that time so much. It means the world to me, because I know you can't get it back.
Right. Yep. And not just that time in general, but they're spending it away from their families, away from maybe their jobs. I don't know, kind of like what you're doing right now with taking a break from driving trucks. But so if you had to put a percentage finished, like it looks, it looks great. What's done in here looks great right now, but it's obvious there's still a ton. I say it's a lot in my videos. I'm like, oh man, they've done so much.
Yeah.
But man, there's a ton left to do.
Yeah.
If you had to put where are you at percentage completion right now?
On the church building, I would say we're at about 70%.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah. So I mean, all the framing work is done. Now it's this last 30 is going to take a while.
Sure.
This last 30% is going to probably take longer than the first 70 because it's slow work. Like this week we're going to be doing the wainscoting on the walls. That probably, I don't know if we'll get that done this week because we're only going to work 3 days because of Christmas. Like the sound booth is already framed up, so we just need to put sheetrock around it and finish sheetrock. This here, hardwood finish on this, wainscoting on these little half walls here. But flooring, like we've already painted the walls, we already fixed the ceiling, they've been painted. All the downstairs, all the classrooms have been reframed, sheetrock's up. I mean, we had to rewire the entire church.
Yeah.
And not just rewire it. So when the church was built, we were in the county. Well, we got annexed into the city a few years ago. So I had to rewire, but I had to bring it up to code.
Right.
So we had to replace every wire in the church. We had to replace all the boxes. We had to use the metal boxes, MC cable, couldn't use Romex. Had to put 2 brand new panels in. The storm ripped the weatherhead out of the roof. It was like hanging out of the roof over there. So we ran the service underground back over the church. So that was, and like I say, that's another thing right there. One man, Tom Anderson, and AA Electric. AA Electric done our service from the pole over to, and then ran it into the boxes. And they supplied all the materials for that and done, the labor for free. I don't know what that would have cost, but I'm sure it was not cheap.
Yeah, I guarantee it.
You know what I mean? Like, I have no idea what it would cost, but I know it was expensive. And then Brother Tom, he came, he sent a message and he said, I can come help you for a day. And I was like, I'll take whatever I can get, because we weren't getting anywhere on electrical work. And he came and he worked a day, and that evening he was leaving, and he's like, I could probably come tomorrow if you want me to. And I was like, yeah, please do. And I think Tom's been here every day for probably a month and a half now. So, but he has single-handedly rewired this entire church.
Wow. And
we've added a lot to it. It wasn't just run back what was there. We changed downstairs, we put all can lights in and put a lot more outlets in all the classrooms. We've run the sound booth, wire traces up to here, all the wire. There's a bunch of stuff you don't see. There's a lot of wiring, electronics and stuff underneath this deck here that we put in. So, but we were really very fortunate. I mean, I would say between AA and Tom, there's probably $25,000 right there, just between those two companies that they've donated, their time to put all that in for us. At a HVAC company out of Lexington, Kentucky, man, I wished I could remember the name of their company. Something Comfort.
If you think of it, I'll put it down in.
Yeah, I'll look it up later because they did us a solid, man. So they called me about hooking our service up. So I bought the heat and air units from a guy in Corbin, Kentucky. He sold them to me at cost. I had one of the brothers from the church go get them, one brother went up there and paid for it. And then one of the guys from Kingdom Builders, Sonny, he actually was coming this way, so he brought the units down for us. We didn't have to go get them. But the company out of Lexington, they called about hooking our service up, and I was like, man, that'd be great. Like, we need that. I said, but listen, I got to replace all my ductwork because it was all full mud. We had to rip it all out. I said, if you're going to come donate the service hookup, let me buy ductwork from you and have your guys all pay for the ductwork side of it. And he's like, oh, let me see what I can do. I'll call you back. Well, I didn't hear back from him. Man, it was like 2 weeks later, 5 pickups pull in from that company. And they set the units, run all the ductwork, the full service. I mean, turnkey job, done. Didn't charge us a dime.
And, and that's the thing, too, is like a lot of folks need to think about, moving forward, these companies that gave time like that,
Yes.
man, that's the guys you do business with,
100%.
help them out because they didn't care to help folks out in a time of need. But if you had to put what's your all's biggest need moving forward to completion?
Right now is going to be, our next big thing is going to be demoing the old pad from the old fellowship hall. And I've got to backfill around the church. I've got to raise that up above the new floodplain. And then, so we can build our fellowship hall. Eventually we'll get to that. Right now, my main focus is this. We have to have a church.
Yeah, because when you're saying 70% done, that doesn't even include the fellowship hall.
No, that's just
the main
inside
sanctuary.
this building. Like even the exterior of our building, I mean, we're still missing, brick off the back quarter of the church. All the brick is missing, both sides and the back. We've got the carport awning over here that's gone. We got to rebuild that, put that back. The porch awning, it was all ripped off in the flood, so that's got to be put back. Carpet out there. Like I say, right now my focus is get this done so we can have service. We have to have a church, and we need classrooms to teach children in. We don't have to have a fellowship hall.
Right.
It would be nice to have it.
Sure.
I think God's going to provide it. I know He is, but it's not my main focus yet. We're moving on to that because this is starting to get wrapped up into a slower process. So that's giving me more time to focus on, floor plan and stuff for the fellowship hall build coming up.
And I guess so. Probably the biggest way somebody could help right now is probably just donating, right? Donating money, donating. Is there any materials that are needed at this point?
There's always a need for materials, but it'd be hard for me to tell you what they are at this point.
Sure.
Because we really haven't decided how we're going to build. We know the floor size. We have kind of a plan in mind. I've emailed a few companies about getting a price on drying on a building and stuff like that. But we're going to have to do all the electrical work has to be done. So we have to buy tons of wiring, fuse panels. Another big thing is we got to go back with because we're a commercial building, we got to have a commercial style kitchen. I don't even know what that's going to cost, but that's going to be high. So if anybody had any kind of commercial, equipment they could donate or know somebody that could make us a deal on it. Like I say, building materials wise, I know we're going to have electrical, HVAC. We need all that stuff for the fellowship hall coming up. Brick work on the church, that's going to be. I got a quote on that the other day. It was over $9,000 just for the brick to go back on the church, not counting somebody a mason to come in and lay the bricks. So that's going to be a pricey little part.
So I guess if somebody was watching this and they decide, hey, I've got this, whether it's money, services, material, what would be the best way? Is there a phone number they can reach out? What's the best way to get a hold of you guys to do that?
Yeah, anybody can reach out to me, to the pastor, to my wife. The church has a Facebook page. We do answer a lot of messages on there. My wife pretty much runs it. A lot of the questions she just refers to me and answers it through me. But yeah, and I guess we just post up some.
Yeah, I'll put the links to all that in the description. For anybody watching, what's the name of the Facebook page?
It's Riverview Baptist Church.
Okay.
Yeah.
And you guys have a GoFundMe as well, right?
Yeah, we have a GoFundMe.
Okay.
Yeah, it's set up in April Simmons' name.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I'll put links to that in the description for anybody that wants to donate. As well as phone numbers and links to the Facebook page. Because I guess what I was getting at with the phone numbers, you might be in a situation where somebody might not see this till January, February, March of next year. We're mid-December. Well, yeah, Christmas is this week, end of December, basically. But somebody might see this, and you guys might have some needs met and be further on. So if there's material needs, probably best if they call ahead and for materials that they want to donate. Yeah,
that's why I've had a lot of people that are kind of waiting for us to build a fellowship hall, and because they call wanting to donate, and I'm like, look, we're good on the building, but if you'll hold on to that
Yeah, because I guess you guys really don't have anywhere to store it either. Is a big problem.
We have zero. Like we bought that little yard barn that's in the parking lot just because we needed a place to put stuff.
Yeah.
My van and my enclosed trailer have been,
packed full of stuff.
A hub. My garage at my house is slammed full of, stuff people's donated. And we've been so blessed with that. There was a church in Pennsylvania donated like kids' tables and chairs. So my garage is full of kids' tables and chairs.
So basically, if somebody's got storage that they can donate, they'll take that too.
Yeah. We're actually talking about renting a storage unit and moving all my motorcycles out of my big trailer and bring my big trailer. Yeah, bring my big trailer down here so I could use it for storage. We may end up having to do that before we get the fellowship hall built, but. Yeah, that's been a big challenge. I mean, like all the lumber we had and materials donated, trying to keep it covered out of the weather with tarps and, the wind kicking up and kicking tarps off. It's been a challenge. And a lot of people have came in here wanting to donate, materials for the community, like food and clothes and stuff. And we just have to send them away. I mean, I always give them a place to go with a phone number. And
you guys just aren't in a place to process that.
Yeah, that's what I tell them. Like, man, we don't even have a place to put our coolers. That's why they're in the parking lot. So,
yeah. Well, and I guess the thing about it too is like you guys are people that are coming here from out of state or out of an area. You guys are the first church they see when they come on down the interstate.
Yeah.
Where was I going to go? Got to rambling and totally forgot what my next question was. But so I guess that's what. So as far as like services, is there a target date? I know I've seen April had put something about Christmas on Facebook, but as we can see, that probably ain't happening. So is there a wishful thinking day to get back in here?
My wishful thinking day is second week of February.
Second week of February.
I don't know if we're going to be able to make it happen. If some people will show up and do what they say they're going to do, I think I can make it happen. We might not have classrooms, and we may not have bathrooms, but I think I can have the sanctuary done.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing. Like we've been fortunate to use the church in downtown. They've let us use their facility, every Sunday. But it's like you're not at home.
Right.
You know what I mean? It's it's the same preacher, it's the same people, it's the same service, and I know everybody in our congregation is getting homesick. So I'm wanting to get this done as fast as I can and get them back in here. And honestly, I think we're way ahead of what most people thought we would.
Oh yeah, I'm blown away. I'll just be honest with you. I thought I would walk in here, did not expect to see the stage area. Definitely did not expect to see LED lighting behind a cross. But yeah, it looks way better than my mental perception was of it, because it's been, so I guess the last time I was here, you guys were probably 2 weeks post-flood last time I was down here. So my last mental picture is me and you walking through the basement, and there's people downstairs pressure washing mud out of the classrooms. So to come back now and see just how much has been done is pretty wild.
Yeah, it's well, in here, like once the wainscoting's done, flooring, we could have church.
Yeah.
We're not going to have our pews back for a while, but as soon as we get our pews back, but hey, I'll go get some umbrella chairs, like if they want to.
Oh, that's it. I mean, you can throw out some chairs and sit down. It's better than
I don't know if the city will let us do it. I may have to make some phone calls and get some things passed, because handrails and stuff like that aren't up yet. But as soon as I can get everything passed and get everybody back in here, we're going to. And I was talking to the preacher. I told him, I was like, look, we're only doing one service a week right now. So when we can get back in the building, we're probably still only going to do one service a week, because this place is still going to be under construction. But I think we could do one service a week in here by the second week of February, even if we have to set in umbrella chairs to do it.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, that gives you 7 weeks basically from right now.
Yeah.
So, yeah, from what's been accomplished so far, just looking around, I think that's I
think it's doable.
Realistic date to shoot for.
Yeah, which, the holidays here, that slows a lot of the work down. I know the guys we got working in here now, they said they did want to work Monday and then Thursday and Friday, which I was surprised. I was afraid everybody work Monday and want to take the rest of the week off. But even though I'd like to have a week off, I'm kind of glad they didn't.
Yeah, for sure. So we've been talking for longer than I had planned on. We're 40 minutes in right now.
I'm sure.
So, which tends to happen anytime we talk, I feel
Right.
like, especially when I'm drinking energy drink, which I did right before I came into the parking lot. So then there's that. But if there's anything, kind of wrapping up, I guess, is there anything that we've missed out on, anything that we didn't talk about that we need to?
The only other thing I can think of that's a good story is the pew story.
Yeah, because that's, whenever I was going to ask you, and I thought, well,
Yeah.
what's going on with the pews? Because I have no clue.
So we had, in my opinion, the nicest pews any church has got. And maybe a little biased to them, but I really liked our pews. So the ones that were on the floor level, of course, there was mud in the seats, mud halfway up the backs of them. And even though we got them out as fast as we could, as soon as we got them out, we ripped the covers off so they'd start drying. We were still in warm weather. So I told the ladies out there, I was like, just take a razor knife, cut all the covers, get the cushions off. But we had 10 in this choir loft behind me that didn't get wet. So the ones at the bottom got a little wet, but nothing. They weren't really submerged. So we had 10 pews that were good. I needed, I think 26 was what it took to fill the congregation area. And as the days went, the pews were drying out. Well, the legs on the pews started splitting. And I'm watching this happen. And some of the volunteers, the pews were screwed to the floor like they should be. And I noticed, I was outside, but I'm thinking, man, they're getting those pews out there really fast. And then I got to looking at the pews in the parking lot, and the feet was missing on each end of the pews.
Oh, man.
So instead of unscrewing them, they just get about 5 guys and just start, ripping pews out of the floor. So, and that may have had something to do with the ones splitting like they did. But anyway, so the guy came from Bethel Church Furnishings, and he looked at our pews. Oh, let me back up a little bit. So the church right across the river, Love Chapel Church, called. They said, hey, we got 8 pews over here. If you guys are interested in them, they're yours. Come get them. And, I looked at my wife, and I was like, what are we going to do with 8 pews? We got 10, 8 of theirs. He sends a picture. They were identical to mine.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. They must have been a pew salesman come through the area back in like 78 or something. I don't know.
Probably after the last flood.
Yeah, that's probably what it's from. So anyway, I went over to pick them up, and we two trailer loads of pews, and ended up he actually had 9 because he had like 4 of them back in this warehouse. They were covered up. So we dug them out. There was 9 pews. So right there we had 19. So I called the guy from Bethel Church Furnishings. He comes out, and he's looking to see if he can take all 26 of mine and make enough good ones to give me a set of pews. And he's looking at them, and he's just like, man, I don't know. He's like, you got like 3 pews in here that are good. And the more they dry, the more that's questionable. And we're standing around talking, and he goes, it's like he just flipped a light switch on the guy. And he goes, give me just a second. He put his phone, he calls, lady answers his phone. He's like, hey, go out to storage building 16 or whatever it was. He said, open the door, take a picture, send me a picture of those pews. He says, the pews we took out of a courthouse in Virginia. So the lady snaps a picture, sends to him. He had 15 pews identical to mine.
No way.
Yeah.
So everything's matched up.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Yeah, so his pews were 15 feet, and mine were 12. So, but he said he could cut his down and make them 12 feet. He had some fabric that he had ordered, and a church changed their mind on it to get a different, color or whatever. And he said, if you'll use this fabric, you can have it. He said, you want to take a sample and show it to the women? And I said, no, we'll use that fabric. I was like, I'm going to tell them this is the only thing you had.
That's a callback to ask forgiveness, not permission.
Exactly. Yeah. So, but yeah, they're and the pews were all a little different color. The staining on them. So he's going to sand them all down, stain them all back to the same color, recover, every one of them. And we decided to go with chairs for the choir loft. And we found some stackable chairs with book holders. And a lot of the women said they'd rather have chairs up there anyway. So that was so that's how we got our pews, and hopefully we'll get them back soon. He called me the other day and he's like, "How close are you?" And I told him, and he's like, "I better get busy." I was like, "Yeah."
I guess he's like me. Didn't think it was going to be this far
That's
along.
what he said. He said, "I figured you wouldn't need pews for several more months." I'm like, "No, dude, we're about there. It ain't going to be 6 months from now. It's going to be 2." So.
Heck yeah. Well, I mean, anything else that we missed or didn't cover? Other than, we talked about the day of, kind of leading up. I believe it's.
We talk about the fellowship hall, like what we lost. You're going to talk about that as we do the walk around.
Do what now?
We talk about the fellowship hall, like what we lost, or you'll talk about when we walk around.
Yeah, let's do that, because for those of you that are watching the long form, there's also going to be a edited short form. So some of this stuff's being used in both places. But yeah, go ahead and talk about that.
Yeah, so the fellowship hall we lost was right at about 3,000 square foot building, and it was attached to the church. There's a door just here to the side of me that you would have went in. There was a second story classroom and bathroom. It was a ladies' classroom, and you could go down a flight of steps and you were in the fellowship hall. And it was an L-shaped building. The original fellowship hall was detached, and like 20-some years ago, we built the 2-story addition and attached it to the church. So you could walk from the church to the fellowship hall without ever going outside. It was very convenient. Like I say, an L-shaped building. Had a kitchen in the very back, lots of closet space. We put some big closets in there, which were very needed. So we lost about a 3,000 square foot building with our entire kitchen, all of our tables, chairs, everything's gone that was in there. So that's going to be a costly replace.
I didn't realize that building was that big.
Yeah.
After you start talking about it, I remember it being the single level and.
Yeah, well, that's why, like, if you drive by on the highway and look at it, it looked like a small building. But where it was L-shaped, you didn't see the extension that went all the way back to the back. It was actually stuck out a little further than the
So
back
that was
of the church.
3,000 square foot on top of the size of the sanctuary, right?
Yeah.
Just the fellowship hall itself.
Just the fellowship hall, yeah. So, and I think what we're planning on building back is about 3,500 square feet. But it's not going to be attached to the church just because the classifications and the codes that come along with the building. If I attach it to the church, that's a whole other set of codes I got to go by for in here.
So what's like, when I was walking around earlier and a couple weeks ago when I was flying the drone through this area, back here under the bridge, what's going to go on with, is that going to be repaved or what's going on with that area?
Our parking lot area?
Yeah.
Well, that's, so we applied through FEMA, give us a government organization that's supposed to help with putting the banks back. I don't remember what it is. My wife can tell you. But they called me Wednesday, I think it was, and they said they done an evaluation and we were far enough away from the river that we were not an emergency, and they didn't have any funding to cover anything but emergency or agriculture. So I offered to plant some corn back there if he'd put the riverbank back. But yeah, so we got no help with that. That's another, fixing the riverbank back and fixing our parking lot. If we have to pay full price for that, I'm sure it's going to be $200,000 or better.
Well, that's something I talked about in the video I made at Mama's house, because like you go out the back door.
Right, yeah.
And I don't know if you've seen the sidewalk, but like,
oh yeah,
I don't know how it's still hanging there, but there's a section of sidewalk that's just hanging over the river, and then it hits you like, okay, there was a step down, the sidewalk went out a little bit further, then there was a driveway that the sidewalk connected to, there was grass on the other side of the drive. I mean, there's a lot of property gone.
Yeah.
And Mom had talked to me about that a week or so ago, said that there was a group coming in. I didn't really know all the details, but said that they were going to put the rock back and build the banks back. And when I was shooting the video, like I was standing there at that sidewalk and I'm looking back down towards the church, looking at, Becky Love's, all of her property that she lost was just insane.
Because you see how the river like just cut right under her house?
Oh yeah. And there's a pond there that never was before, It's
like it just went the direct path underneath, pulled a whole foot out from under her house.
And
it's crazy.
I'm looking at that thinking about the cost, like the amount of material it's going to take if they truly backfill off her property, which from what I understand, and I could be wrong, that's what they plan on doing, and they just about have to do it if they're going to build the banks back the way they should be.
Yeah.
Because the river shifted a good, I don't know, I said 40 feet in the video the other day. I might be wrong on that, but you can see where the old bank was. And so, hopefully because there's not a ton of space between the back of the church and the drop-off now.
And we've already raised it up probably 12 to 15 feet. The county brought me a bunch of material where they were doing some road work, where they had to repave. They had put a bunch of gravel in until they paved. So when they dug all that gravel out, I seen them hauling it off. So I ran up there and I was like, hey, bring it to the church. We'll save y'all some diesel fuel.
And, kind of talking about that, because I've seen some videos, and I think I might have mentioned it at the first of this video, but I've seen some videos that have claimed there's some really good YouTube channels out there. There's some really good ones. Then there's some that I'm just kind of like, a lot of them tend not to be from this area, and they'll talk about how nothing's getting done. You brought up the county there. Just kind of touch on, like, how much you've seen. I know if somebody just drives by here, they see the piles and everything, they're like, man, they ain't doing nothing there. But have you seen somebody that's here every day? I literally can say every time I drive by here, I see that blue van sitting outside. But somebody that's here pretty much every day working. Tell people, like, how much have you seen the county, the state, whoever? There's been a lot of work happen, right?
Oh, it's phenomenal, the amount of work that's been done. And I know the guys that's working for the construction companies like Phillips and Jordan, and all their contractors, I know they subcontract a lot. They've been working 7 days a week.
Yeah.
And they're not stopping. You see them guys out when it's raining, they're still, they're making a daggone mess in the road, but they're still moving material.
Yeah.
That's a whole other gripe.
It cracks me up because, if you live on the south end of the county, mud's just part of our life now.
Deal with
for the next few years, that's what we got to deal with.
Yeah.
And I get cracked up when I get on Facebook and I see people that are getting upset about, and I get it, man. I just bought a new truck, so I get it. Like, keeping it clean is nearly impossible right now.
Yeah.
But I'm just like, man, these guys are busting tail right now trying to get things back to some sense of normal. And it's going to be a long road.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, this is what kind of bothers me about the whole thing. So the construction companies, I went to all of them about getting backfill. Because I'm like, hey, you guys are hauling this stuff off. I got a gigantic hole in my parking lot. Let's put it in there, let's fill it up.
Kill two birds with one stone.
Right, I'm across the bridge from you. This makes perfect sense. I'm gonna save you some money. I'm gonna get my parking lot backfilled, the bank built back up. It's gonna be great. No. And it's the government won't let them because they say the dirt is potentially contaminated.
Yeah.
And, I'm like, look, that dirt over there probably came from here, so just bring it back.
Yeah, for sure. Because I guess what gets me, like, when I watch some of these videos, and like I say, there's some YouTubers that are coming from out of area into area that are doing an excellent job covering the damage, the progress and whatnot. And I'll see some that, and I don't think that they mean to cast a bad light, but what they don't realize is a lot of this work's happening with our local government, a lot of it, like town of Erwin, Unicoi County, the people who live here are doing the work. And I don't know who funds all this on the other side of the river, but it ain't just Joe Blow paying for all these trucks and this equipment. I'm assuming probably the state or federal.
Yeah.
I don't know. But like you said, government. But anyways, what gets me is when they'll get on YouTube, and I know they mean well. I think they mean well when they're saying, nothing's happening here, nothing's getting done. Are they even searching these areas for people? And me and you've seen it. We've seen how many search and rescue teams came through here. And I really didn't mean to turn this into this, but just kind of going on a tangent here. I know personally guys like Paul Green and Glenn Wright, different guys that I can name locally, Reagan Tilson, who, literally nonstop would not go home until they found all the people that were missing down there. And then you see these guys get on YouTube and say, have they even looked through the area? And it's like, man, I get what you're doing. And unfortunately, there probably are people that may have washed down this way that will never be found, from North Carolina.
Right.
I can say everybody that was missing in Unicoi County, they were found, accounted for. But what gets to me is when you see that stuff, I don't think people from out of area that come here realize they're kind of slapping the people that live here. They're smacking them in the face when they're saying the ones that were doing the work, right?
Yeah.
And that's what bothers me is like, I know so many of these guys on, their friends, their neighbors, whatever, that put so much into the search and rescue, that put so much into just like yourself. I mean, you've not worked your job for what, 3 months now?
Yeah, 3 months.
And when I see them come in and say stuff like that, it just really bothers me. So I guess that's where I was kind of going down this tangent was you being somebody who's here every day seeing it, you're seeing progress being made, right?
Oh yeah, lots of progress. I mean, it's like when you look at the mess over here in the industrial park, if you take into account the amount of material that was in that industrial park compared to the mountain you see now, I mean, it's
nothing.
It's probably over half cleaned up. It still looks like a lot.
Yeah.
But it's probably over half. I mean, you just think about how much pipe was in poly pipe sheet.
Oh, for sure.
How much lumber was down at Blue Links. You know what I mean? And
the storage buildings down in that.
Storage buildings, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. I didn't mean to go on a tangent on that. I knew it was getting pretty close to wrapping it up, but just got to thinking.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of people didn't even see the mountain like you're talking about.
Right, yeah.
The interstate was closed when the river turns down towards Devil's Looking Glass. The mountain of debris that was down there. I flew the drone down there a couple days after the flood, and it blew my mind. I think the drone said it was like 45 feet off the ground, and I was skimming over top of everything.
Right.
People don't realize just how much stuff was down there, and trees on top of that, cars we had cars that came down here from North Carolina.
Oh, yeah. And, there's so much stuff that's buried and probably never going to be found.
Sure.
I mean, we dug up a complete Harley Davidson right here beside the church.
Yeah, I remember you posting that on Facebook.
Yeah.
I guess, there's going to be things that just, unfortunately, there's going to be folks that will never be found.
There was actually a lady came here, I think it was Thursday or Friday, and she was wanting to go look on the riverbank because she's still searching for a lost loved one. She was from North Carolina. It was 2 women and 1 guy. The guy came in here and talked to me and, just make sure it's all right to be on the property. I said, hey, just, if you need anything, let me know, So
And I'm all for, I'm all for more search and rescue teams coming in and looking. And I can't blame anyone. Couldn't imagine what it's like to lose a loved one and not be able to find them here we are 3 months later. I guess for me, it's just like, for YouTubers or anybody coming in here, don't bash the folks that have been doing all the work, that have put in so much time, and they're not getting, the ones that aren't getting paid, or even the ones that are getting paid. The people, I guess what I'm getting at, people have been here doing work, right?
Oh, yeah.
So I'll get off that. That's one of those things that gets under my skin. Anything else you want to talk about? We're about 50 minutes in at this point.
Nothing I really think of.
Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and, I guess, wrap it up right there. And I'll probably, what we might do is plan on maybe mid-February, whenever you guys get close to that move-in date, maybe we get back together again and do this again and talk about where where you were now versus where you are at that point in time.
Yeah, definitely.
But if you're watching the long form, I really appreciate you sticking with us because we rambled on for right at an hour, and we're good at that.
Yeah.
When you get me and Jeff talking, we can go on for a long time. But if you made it to this point, click the like button, subscribe. Also, if you have a story you want told, you're somebody local, I would love to tell your story for you if that's something you'd like to do. In the description, you'll see my email address, info@orvmediagroup.com. Feel free to reach out to me. You can also reach out to me on social media. I have my social media links down in the description as well. Reach out to me. It's not going to cost you a dime. Totally free. Didn't charge you anything, did I, Jeff?
Not yet.
Not yet, anyhow. But no, for real. I would love to tell your story to help, if it can help raise some funds or whatever, raise some awareness, let me know. But thanks for watching. Catch you next time.